Welcome back to the Vera House podcast. In today's episode, we talked about a lot of cool Richmond lore, Richmond legends, Richmond history. We talked about a baseball field downtown about 100 years ago on Mayo Island and what the future plans for Mayo Island are. We talked a lot about just Richmond history in general. We talked about a hidden spring underneath one of Richmond's most popular, well-known buildings. So you have to tune in to figure out what that was. We talked about movies. We talked about a bunch of cool stuff. What else we talk about?
We talked about socializing, talked about third spaces, and we talked about dating in Richmond and some of the pitfalls, some of the drawbacks, and some possible solutions. So stay tuned for that. I just can't get over that you haven't seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, it's Star Wars, and it is the epitome of the hero's journey.
It is, but so is every other movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
Star Wars is Harry Potter, is Hunger Games, is Lord of the Rings, is Fern Gully.
What came out first?
Fern Gully.
Star Wars. I love Fern Gully. I've seen it a million times. Star Wars came out first.
Really?
Yes.
All right, I'll take your word on that because I'm not a movie. Well, the weird thing is, like, I'm definitely not a movie buff, but I'm very fascinated by cinema in general.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say that I love movies because I feel like I do, but I guess the argument is I don't, right? Because, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I will say the more that I tune out of reality, the more I do like sci-fi, you know? And I'm like, reality's cool, but like, bro, you ever seen the show Foundation? Like,
yeah.
It's way cooler.
See, that makes sense. And I like sci-fi, so I usually find shows like this or they get recommended to me on like the streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like something that you could fall like deeply into. But when you say you haven't seen like the other Alien movies or the new Star Wars, not to mention the old Star Wars or like Terminator, blows my mind.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've had a interesting childhood, right? So I missed out on a lot of like movies. And I did recently dive into the Alien stuff. So I watched Alien. Or no, I watched is it Prometheus?
Prometheus.
I watched that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I watched that one. I like it. Very, like poetic and up for interpretation, which I think is really cool. Foundation, I think, is cool just because of the lore of it all. And the original book writer was Isaac Asimov. I think he's like I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Isaac Asimov?
Yeah, that guy. So like, prolific Russian sci-fi writer.
Yeah.
So it's like I know a lot about certain things that I'm interested in. But then as soon as you go outside of that bubble, I'm totally clueless.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen The Matrix.
Again, blows my mind.
Yeah.
Especially now that I think I saw a post from you on Instagram that you're more into like history and into conspiracy theories instead of like pop culture. The Matrix is like the epitome of
that
deep diving into conspiracy theories. It came out like 25 years ago, something like that. And ever since then, it's been picked apart. But more recently, they're comparing like the Matrix to the Bible.
Right.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was interviewing Lawrence Fishburne, who plays Morpheus. And they're like, yeah, the Matrix was about the Bible and Jesus and, the disciples and all this kind of stuff. And it's right up your alley and you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, you know what else is based on that is the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like the hero's journey is almost crafted from the oldest story we know. And many people would argue, yeah, that's the Bible. But the Bible is a retelling of older stories. And people think of the Bible as a book, but it's not. It's like 40 plus books curated into one and then filtered through hundreds of years of political control and power and, whatever else. Anyway.
Yeah.
But like Lord of the Rings, I've watched the series. I like House of the Dragon. Like I like Game of Thrones. I like the series and the shows. I love Peaky Blinders. Like movies, man. I think I just like missed a huge chunk of movies. And yeah, I don't often find myself watching movies really for whatever reason. There's definitely movies I love, like Blade Runner, the new one. I say new, it's older now, but I guess you call that the sequel, right? Like the second, Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
I thought that was an unbelievable movie. I thought it was so good. I loved that movie. Dune. I know we've talked about that before. I love Dune.
Man, yeah.
But a lot of the like cult classics I've never seen. I've chipped away at a few of them. Like I've seen American Psycho. I don't know, man. There's something about older movies where I just tune out, man. And maybe it's, the TikTokification of our brain. Like I tried to sit down and watch the original Top Gun. Bro, I made it like 12 minutes in and I was like, I can't do it.
Well, to be fair, it's rough. It's hard. I watched Days of Thunder like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. That's like the OG racing movie, right?
Yeah, it's the OG racing movie. Like we were talking about like F1 and the new movie and all of that. So I was like, all right, let me get nostalgic a little bit. Because I remember seeing it when I was younger. It's rough. I watched most of it. Like I got like 80% of the way, but I had to dejectocito. I just couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
They're dated. They don't look good. The acting is terrible considering we've got the best actors in the world on the best sets with the best cameras now. So we're spoiled, but there is something that's the full circle about watching the predecessor to some of the new sequels. For instance, like the Matrix has like a new Matrix, and if you haven't seen the original, you kind of need to get all the context, for example.
So there's a new Matrix?
There's a newer one. It hasn't been like a new Matrix in a few years.
Okay.
I don't remember even what it's called. It wasn't great, but I'm also a big fan of the first few because that was its whole own thing. And it's a long, drawn out, epic story. So inevitably, the movies leave you with some questions and a cliffhanger, and the story just continues on. And often, we see it all the time. Remakes and sequels and runners up that just really don't do it justice. And it's like, you didn't need to do that. You could have just left it exactly the way it was and not tarnished the legacy of this like great story.
Yeah.
Like How I Met Your Dragon was one of the best animated films that I'd ever seen. Big fan, loved it. Now there's a live action version that's the exact same movie, scene for scene, with real people. Some of the people are the people that played the actors, the voice actors, and then a CGI dragon.
Yeah.
Why? What's the point?
Here's where you're going to crack up. I saw that movie. I saw that one. I like How to Train Your Dragon. I think you combined How I Met Your Mother and How to Train Your Dragon. You said How I Met Your Dragon.
Whatever. Yeah.
Dude, I saw that one. I saw that one. Maybe I just forget movies. No, I mean, it was the same, but I remember leaving like thinking it was good.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. And it's like, it's a huge risk. Like the Snow White remake was a disaster. I never saw that, but
I have no desire to see that.
Yeah, it's like there's a huge risk in trying to remake shows, and then you bring wokeness into it all, and you just got to appease everybody and change the story. And it's like, it's probably more likely that people are going to hate it.
Yeah.
Like Lord of the Rings came out with their TV show on Amazon. A lot of people hated it. I actually thought it was pretty good.
Honestly, I'm surprised that you saw that, and I agree. It didn't get the reception that it should have gotten. Yeah. It was, in my opinion, incredible. Just the retelling of this great epic story through the eyes of one of the elves, and from the future. Maybe it's the future. I can't remember. It's the future, or maybe it's the prequel.
It's the past.
It's like far
hundreds
past.
of years before.
Yeah, and that's so cool. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, why wouldn't you be a fan of this movie? And dude, I saw recently that there's been upheaval, like unrest around the characters that are being played by different races. And I heard, I can't remember the comedian's name. He's like talking about how silly it is that people are upset that some of the elves are black or brown or whatever. It's like, yeah, you're totally right. Everyone should be white in this guy's fantasy world.
And that was for Snow White, right?
No, that was for Lord of the Rings. That was for Rings of Power.
Really?
Because like some of the hobbits are black, and there's a black elf.
Yeah, and I like that guy's great.
Yeah,
I can't think of the actual elf that he's in, but he's great. He's one of the main characters.
Yeah.
I thought the show was great. I saw where people were complaining about how in this similar vein of wokeness or whatever, they took the trolls, like not the trolls, the
orcs.
Yes, thank you, the orcs, and like gave them families and made them like lovable and gave them a backstory and stuff. And people were like, dude, these are the orcs, man. Like, you know, they're evil.
We don't want to
swine, you know,
identify with the orcs.
Exactly. You know, and they were like, dude, why'd you do this? And I saw people complain about that. And I'm like, I would have never even thought of that. You know, I would have never even noticed. But
you have too much time on your hands.
Right. You know how like Taylor Swift has Swifties? I don't know what you call Lord of the Rings, like ringers. I don't know. I'm not a ringer, dude. You know, like I'm not that deep into it.
Yeah.
I've loved Lord of the Rings since I was a kid, you know, but I'm not going to like Comic-Con dressed as Frodo. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I thought it was a great series. And did you see where his name escapes me, but the writer of Peaky Blinders is now coming out with a series about the House of Guinness, which is like the family that created the Guinness brand, you know, the beer.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty awesome. You know, it's very much, I don't want to say a carbon copy of Peaky Blinders, but it's like, dude, if you have a winning formula, do it. And he did that same thing where he's just taking, you know, historic Ireland and following a different family now.
Right.
And this one is also based on loosely based on a true story, the same way that Peaky Blinders was.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty sick.
I didn't see that that's coming out, but it sounds dope.
Yeah.
Not unfortunately, I never watched more than like 2 episodes of Peaky Blinders. Just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Wasn't my thing.
Yeah. I mean, if I remember, I thought it was a great show. I thought it was an amazing show, but in the beginning, it's a little bit of a slow burn.
Yeah. I didn't want to stick with it.
It's a long series to commit to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like stuff like that. I like, it reminds me of like one of my favorite like retellings is like the Sherlock Holmes movies with like Robert Downey Jr. Those are really good.
Yeah.
And then the King Arthur movie with Charlie Hunnam, the guy from like Green Street Hooligans and Sons of Anarchy. Those are great movies, but they're like very Hollywood, shiny, flashy action renditions of like old stories.
Yeah.
Which some people hate. They just despise when you like it's a Hollywood wash. But you got a great cast, great action, great story. It's not to like.
Yeah.
It's a popcorn movie.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. Like when I think of even going back to Peaky Blinders, like I think about what people love about that show is the setting and the environment. And there's not many things, in my opinion, that you can watch that really do justice to that type of like accurate historical depiction in the way that Peaky Blinders does.
Yeah.
You know, and just the town and Belfast and the trains and all that stuff. And speaking of trains, so did you see where, a little bit of a topic switch here, Richmond purchased Mayo Island where the train track goes through?
Yeah.
So they purchased it for $15 million. It's basically like the little sister island by Browns Island.
Yeah.
And, you know, more in like the Manchester area. And they bought the whole island. I think it was $15 million. And right now there's parking lots and buildings and stuff on it. And they're going to remove it and turn it into like a big park.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Is that so? I mean, this is kind of tying into what we were talking about on the last episode. You know, the city kind of taking this initiative to repurpose some of these, you know, kind of maybe neglected parts of town and just turn them into, you know, public spaces, make them cool, make them inviting. I think it's great.
And this is pure speculation, but I really think there must be somebody that is part of the urban development of the city that is probably deeply invested in green spaces.
Yeah.
And really looking at other cities, hopefully learning from them and trying to implement what they know about other cities and implement more parks and green spaces and all that. And of course, that's all also like eco-friendly as well and helps with those types of things like carbon offset and whatever. I don't know anything about that. But that island, so in the early 1900s, there was a baseball stadium and it was like a public place. Yeah, literally. What? Yeah, there was a baseball team. So before our original stadium, there was a baseball stadium there and it was the Richmond Colts. Babe Ruth played there. The Yankees played there. The Orioles played there.
No shit.
It was like a big thing. Yeah. And there's like these urban legends about how There's arguments about whether it was Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig hit a home run and it landed in a train car in the passing train because the train goes right across, the island.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely like some history there too. And then, over the years, somebody buys up the place and they just put a parking lot and some industrial building on it and no one ever thinks about it ever again. And then everybody forgets about it until someone comes along and says like, hey, this is prime real estate. It really should belong to the city, right? It's by all this other stuff, Browns Island and Belle Isle and the new amphitheater and all these things. So it definitely probably plays into the big $30 million development that they're doing on Browns Island. And it's right there. It's ancillary to the main island. And it'll just be a continuation of that. It also connects to one of the topics we've talked about before, which is like the development of Southside and Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a park that's a little bit closer to that area.
Yeah.
Right. And so stretching into these places that, maybe don't have access to those types of parks or just honestly like beautiful stuff. And so, I think it's a pretty cool thing. But I was looking at this and I was like, damn, that's really cool. So they're going to remove all the buildings and parking lots on Mayo Island. They'll replace this with plants, walkways, and picnic tables to create a permanent park. So there's an urban rumor that Babe Ruth once hit a homer into a passing train car that was later discovered in Detroit. The Red Sox and the Orioles did verifiably play an exhibition series there in the 1920s. It often flooded, but its final demise was a fire that erupted in the grandstand. It also briefly hosted the University of Richmond football team. It was open from 1890 to 1941, and its listed capacity was 6,000 people.
That is kind of crazy. Like I'm looking at this picture.
Yeah.
Wow, man, it's a baseball stadium smack dab in the middle of the river.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah. Pretty nuts. So, it'll be nice to see it return to some sort of functional space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's cool, man.
Yeah. But talking about Peaky Blinders made me think of all those cool scenes with like the train cars in the back and the coal trains and all that stuff. And, who knows? Maybe Richmond didn't look too different.
I'm betting Richmond looked, and I've seen pictures like this and pictures of Richmond from the 1900s and like even before. It's shockingly the same. I guess maybe not shockingly, but surprisingly the same. Some of the buildings that are downtown in the Fan, Manchester, were there in like the 1700s, 1900s rather. Maybe the 1700s, probably earlier than that. There's a picture, it's in a book, but it's also I think it's up in a frame in the Village Cafe on campus. If you ever go to like Harrison and Grace, I think is where that is.
Yep.
So it's in the Village Cafe. And it's a picture of Monument Avenue where the Robert E. Lee statue used to be. And, I'm from here, born and raised, but the first memories that I have of Richmond or of downtown and Monument Avenue were of all the monuments, the Robert E. Lee statue being there. And I remember seeing that photo. And in the photo is a tobacco field in the middle of Monument Avenue. In the middle of the field is Robert E. Lee's statue. So all of that monument cobblestone area was just farmland. And then that big house that kind of looks like it looks like a government official's building, but it is someone's home on the other side, closer to the Broad Street side, was there. It's just kind of crazy to think parts of the city that are now very developed used to just be agriculture or farmland. Yet something like the statue was erected around that time.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Dude, do you know the story of Short Pump Mall?
No.
Okay. So, in a similar vein, okay, so now we think of Short Pump as this like booming, urban suburbs mall shopping area chaos, right? Of course, and you probably know this, it wasn't always like that, right? It used to be like you're just out in the middle of nowhere, basically.
Yep.
Well, rewind another 100 years, and that whole area out there was like one of the main posts that horse and buggy would stop at when they were carrying cargo and traveling to the train station and coming through there on horseback and also carrying carriages. And the area, because the town whatever the name was prior, was known for like a good stopping point, right? They had like good water troughs for the horses, and it was a good place to stop and reload and all those things. And it became such a popular pass through that what would happen is when it would rain and the horses would come through, it would just create a mess because it would get really muddy because it was really tracked up from all of the foot traffic and horse traffic and carriage and the ruts from the wheels on the carriages and stuff.
Yeah.
And it became like a big problem to where it was so popular, but it was just a huge mess and it was difficult to get through there. And then it would dry up and there'd be ruts in the mud and it became a difficult place to traffic through.
Mm-hmm.
And so they decided to build a pavilion over top of the water pump that was there, the big water faucet. And so it was this big thing. They invested in it and they built this pavilion and they plan on having a big ribbon cutting and stuff to reopen the station. So they build the pavilion, they get there, they cut the ribbon, and they go to pull the water pump up to like christen the water pump and say, welcome back. And they pull the water pump up and it hit, and water pumps back then are huge. They're massive, right? The levers on them are huge. They're multiple feet long.
Right.
They go and they pull the lever and it hits the roof of the pavilion to where they can't open it all the way. And just a little bit of water trickles out. And they're like, oh.
Okay.
And some fast thinker was like, okay, well, we're having this opening ceremony for this water pump in this brand new pavilion. And this is supposed to be one of the main watering holes and pit stops for people traveling through here. So he goes and gets a hacksaw and cuts off the top of the pump handle. Therefore, that stop became known as short pump. And people would always refer to it as short pump because that is the stop with the short pump. Man. And that's literally where short pump got its name. And as a bonus, if you go to short pump today, when you walk in and there's that main water fountain in the center, at the top of that water fountain is the original short pump. And like you would never even notice it. You wouldn't even know what it is, right? But if you walk in there, the actual short pump is mounted as a pedestal on the top of that fountain. And that's literally why the entire area is called short pump.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Names are crazy, man.
Isn't that nuts?
It's like people name towns after shit like that. It's so crazy to me. Yeah.
But, back to your monument thing, I have a couple books that were published by the Richmond Times-Dispatch because they have access to, tons of photo library archives and stuff from the past 150 years.
Yeah.
And they're expensive books, so like $100 a piece. I don't know if they've made more, but it's called Richmond Memories. I've got the first and the second edition. And the photos in there are unbelievable. And yeah, you can go back and look at Broad Street and it has the electric train cars. And you look at Broad Street and exactly like you said, a lot of those same buildings are still there. It does look the same, but it's also so different. And it's just unbelievable to like imagine what life was like then. Like very, very interesting and very cool.
Yeah. I'll try and find the photo. I took a screenshot of it. Somebody, I think even from RVA Mag, shared this photo a couple of years back. And it was, I think it's in black and white, but maybe it was in color. It was a photo of Broad Street at 6th and Broad. And it was what used to be called the 6th Street Marketplace. And I remember the 6th Street Marketplace because I used to come down here when I was a kid with my mom. And we would go there, we would shop, we would walk up and down Broad Street, we'd go to the record store, we'd go to the clothing store, we'd go to the grocery store, because you could do all that on Broad. It was a pretty, bumpin' metropolitan part of town. But the 6th Street Marketplace was on the north side of Broad, where the Marriott Hotel is right now. So at the Marriott, if you were to take a left, if you're going towards Churchill and Broad and you were to take a left at 6th Street, it's still there. It's boarded up and it hasn't been moved or remodeled or, bulldozed since the 80s. And it's still there. So what it was this marketplace on the north side of Broad Street that kind of you can walk into and walk through like a mall, shopping mall, full of shops and restaurants and boutiques and all that. And you'd come out on the other side and you'd be right where the Coliseum is. So you'd walk a footpath around the corner and you walk to the Coliseum. And then you walk past that and you walk further into like where the bio district is now and over that part of town. If you were to come back out of the front of the marketplace towards Broad Street, you could do that and stay on the Broad Street level, or you could go to the second floor and walk over a giant catwalk that was suspended over Broad Street and then walk down to the other side of the 6th Street Marketplace. And on the catwalk, it was this giant, really cool glass like catwalk across Broad with a big 6 on it. And it was like it came to a point in the middle with like a nice copper roof. It was awesome. And I saw a picture of that. I saw a picture of that one day and I was really nostalgic, but I was also like, man, Broad Street used to be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and that is really cool. And a lot of the pictures that are in those books that I mentioned are of that area. That sounds a bit more recent than some of the pictures that I've seen. The ones that I've seen they're old, you know, like before we had cool modern glass architecture like that or something, you know. But that area is interesting. It would be nice to see it come back to life at some point, you know, and it has little by little, you know, the arts district is doing much better than, you know, a decade ago. Like I used to live in Jackson Ward, and right where, I forget what restaurant it was originally, but it became Max's, and now it's a dim sum place or something like that. Or
yeah, it's like and dim sum.
Yes. And I used to live right there on that diagonal street called Brook Road, not to be confused with like the main Brook Road, but like there's just a little corner street there. And I used to live there, and like, dude, it was a bit of a wasteland. There was like nothing going on. You know, there was nowhere to really go. You know, like I think like the Quirk was maybe there, but like brand new. You know, and most of those stores and shops were boarded up. Mm-hmm. You know, and some of that still exists. And of course, the further you go down, the more common that is. But of course, now you got the Marriott there, and what's that restaurant that's in there? I think it's called like Amber and Smoke or something. You know, sort of little hotel lobby, restaurant, bar, and nice outdoor patio with the fireplace on it and stuff. And you've got, you know, Ember Music Hall. So there's stuff going on. Mm-hmm. But it would be cool to see that wider area all right there continue to, you know, improve.
Flourish.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know it seems like it's a project that is just constantly in the work, and maybe there's some back and forth about what to do about it. You know, what's the best path forward? Because there doesn't seem to be any like wide sweeping change or wide sweeping initiatives to change Broad Street as a whole. And, you know, like you said, that there's businesses that pop up that'll redo a business or redo a building and turn it into something cool and make that part of town more inviting. But without hundreds of people doing that on a regular basis, you have one here and then one there, and maybe that business closed, and then maybe there's another 2, and then maybe that changes into something else. And, you know, it doesn't happen all at once. So it just kind of stays this patchwork of, well, here's a really cool shop that sells like streetwear and skateboards next to a really, really old like pawn shop. And then it's across the street from a fine dining restaurant.
Right.
But then a block down, there's nothing.
Yeah.
No shops, no stores, and then maybe an apartment building. So it's just like this hodgepodge of stuff.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But, you know, old stuff is coming back around. You know, I saw where, and I think, you know, it's because of the development in the city. You know, everybody's putting their nice pants on, you know. I saw where Byrd Theatre just like they're redoing all their seats and everything and just kind of updating the theater. And they're doing it in the style of like their original opening, like in 1920 or 25 or something.
Yeah.
And let me see. So new seats were installed at Byrd Theatre on September 10th. So this is yesterday as of this recording.
Really?
So this is like just happened.
Okay.
Offering wider seating and more legroom while reducing capacity to about 920 patrons. So it'll seat a little bit less people, but it'll be much nicer, much more comfortable.
That's great.
Cost them over $650,000. Yeah. Restoring the historic aisle details to their 1928 look. And I don't know, do you know that there's a secret spring underneath Byrd Theatre? Like underneath the theater, there is a fresh groundwater spring that is like still active underneath the theater.
No, did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like there's a video of it, like one of the local news stations, they actually did like a piece on it. and the reporter goes down, you can actually see it. And like, it's crystal clear drinking water. You could drink it.
Oh, yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. So of course it's closed off because like if they let it do its thing, it would, destroy the building. But so they kind of built like a dedicated corridor for it, and the spring flows into this holding tank, and that's where the water stays. And then I guess they've got some sort of drainage system.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go down there, right. So if you go down the twisting steps and down the claustrophobic corridors, you go down to a vast concrete encased spring room. It's 25 feet by 25 feet and 20 feet deep. It traps the water from a spring that otherwise would threaten the building. The pumps keep the levels manageable, and the water is crystal clear and drinkable. And it seeps into this uncanny room in the very bowels of one of Richmond's grandest landmarks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I wonder if you can still go and see it.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe that's like an insider tip. Like
this is our request, right?
Yeah,
like let us go see it. Let Vera House go take a sip of the secret strange water underneath Byrd Theatre.
Is it going to make me immortal? Is the question.
Probably.
Yeah.
We've been watching too many sci-fi movies.
Maybe we haven't watched enough. It sounds awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully it wouldn't be more like the black goo from Prometheus.
No, man. I mean, I don't know. I could do with a little alien mutation to up the game a little bit, up my stats.
Yeah.
Might make me look better on the apps.
That's true.
Dude, speaking of the apps, man, dating apps to be specific.
Okay. Not appetizers.
Talking about dating apps, man. I've been in this group chat with a bunch of my friends, and recently it seems like there's been like a lot of sharing of like singles events that are going on in the city. And I kind of took note of that. I was like, I'm on the apps and it works or doesn't work. And I asked my friends, my guy friends especially, to find out, what's their experience on it. And the results aren't great. The consensus is less than stellar, not a lot of results, not a lot of matches. And when you do, the matches don't really amount to anything. So the question is, okay, where do you go if you want to meet somebody? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm single, like I'm out and about, and I like to do things in and around my city. And I do notice that it is kind of difficult to go to places or to find places where you can just like casually meet somebody. The tradition was like, let's just go to the bar or go to the club, turn up at the club. I think I'm kind of past that personally. And I know a lot of my friends are not really, into going out and like drinking a bunch to like meet people. Like the results may vary. Let's be real about that. Some people have better luck at it than others. And like, then there's run clubs. Like the run clubs came up. I was like, oh yeah, maybe you'll meet somebody at a run club. Man, I don't want to run. I'm not a runner. We talked about this already.
Yeah.
Like I'll cycle, maybe. But then what I'm hearing is like run clubs aren't for finding dates either. They're for people who like to run. So like that whole thing was like a wash. So then the question is like, all right, so where do you go if you want to like meet cool people, have an engaging connection, and like maybe go on a date that isn't a dating app? And I didn't know, and my friends didn't know. And then all of a sudden we see all these like speed dating and like social mixer and all this kind of stuff. And so I was like, all right, let me take a minute and just like investigate this a little bit. And actually came across someone who is like taking on this initiative. And they started an Instagram account called the Pair Club. And they are hosting singles events that are specifically not speed dating. I remember the first event I saw that I like felt like, okay, you know what? I've done the dating app. I've done some like bar nights out. I go to public spaces. Let me try speed dating. That would end up getting canceled. I didn't go. But now that there's like a variety, I'm like kind of interested. So I messaged the person that owns the Pair Club Instagram because I wanted to get some insider info. And I've shared some of the flyers for some of the events that are going on. And there's one called Not That Speedy, kind of dating 40 plus men and women. That's on Friday, September 12th. There's one paddle and social. It's like dip your toes in Richmond single scene, paddle with the waterfront. So like, I guess you want to, go down to the river and paddle. also not going to a club and not going to a bar, kind of leaning towards, just social activities. But the one that really got me was October 24th, the singles night at Celeste Farms. And I think you mentioned liking Celeste Farms.
Yeah. It's a cool spot for sure.
Yeah. I've never been, but I kind of want to go. And, after talking to her, I got a lot of insight about like what she's trying to do. And it's pretty cool. It's like, it's different than speed dating. She's trying to create social events that are marketed towards single people, but not specifically with the goal of them going to find a date. It's not like gamifying finding, a date or a partner, like an app. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm inviting single people. We're going to go and do some cool stuff. We're going to have some mocktails, maybe some food, hang out at the sauna, maybe go do some paddling. Maybe you'll make a connection.
Yeah.
Get out of your comfort zone, do something that you haven't done before. Could be fun.
It sounds to me almost like it's sort of social and friendship first versus like when I think of an app, I think of like, it's either like hookups or marriage led, right? And there's like no in between, right? It's like, and I don't know, I've never been on a dating app. But my understanding of it is like, yeah, you're either using this thing to look for a hookup or you're going through and checking off your checklist for your life partner.
Right.
Which both kind of sound wild to me.
Yeah.
But I definitely like Celeste Farms. It's great. You definitely want to practice your cold plunging before you go. So that way you can go and be like, oh yeah, I do this all the time.
I got to practice. I'll get the reps in.
Yeah. But I think that's cool. I think it's an indicator of post-COVID survival in a way. It's like, I hate even talking about COVID. It's like people bring it up and it's like, didn't that end like 5 years ago, dude? Why are we still talking about this? But it really did have a profound impact on the way that people socialize and how we do things, how we work, how we find friends, how we find partners, how we do anything. And like you mentioned, like bars and clubs, like alcohol consumption is down significantly, which is a great thing. But I think a lot of dating, and this has been true for decades, like just social anything has always revolved around the watering hole, right? Around going to the bar, going to get a drink, going to get a beer, going to get a cold one, going to the baseball game and getting a pint. Like it's just all about drinking. Everything is revolved around drinking. And now that has changed or is starting to change, there are people looking for other outlets and realizing there are none, and it's like, what? Okay, go take a pottery class or go do whatever. And it's like, as men, it's like, okay, well, we're not allowed to find people in the wild because everybody's terrified of like, some crazy shit happening to them because everybody's watching like, true crime on Netflix and everything. And everybody's like, oh no, don't kill me. And it's like, relax.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just trying to hang out, man, And I can only speak for myself, but fortunately, like all the relationships I've been in have been from meeting people in the wild, you know? And I've just always stuck to that. It's like I've literally never downloaded a dating app. Never will.
Yeah.
Unless I go through some sort of midlife crisis or something. But no intentions of doing that. And I think it speaks to the uncomfortability that people have in connecting with people. Everybody's got their guard up. Everybody's worried about what's someone going to think about me and all this other stuff. And I think it's a worthy cause to learn to get better at that, right? It's like people's number one fear is public speaking. Like they fear public speaking over death. Like death is number 2. Number 1 is public speaking.
Yeah.
So I think it says like, okay, well, as humans, we care deeply about what people think about us. And which is, I think is totally normal, right? Of course we do. It's why we dress the way we dress and we talk the way we talk and we do the things we do. But it makes it so that we're always self-conscious, whether we want to be or not. And dating is like the most intimate version of being conscious of oneself, right? It's like the only thing you're focused on is, does this person like me? What do they think about me? What is their reaction to me? Does my breath smell? Do I smell good? Do I look cool? All of these things. And I think it's highly valuable to move society in a direction where we get together and hang out and do a sauna or a cold plunge or eat at a community table together with have dinner with people you don't know.
Yeah.
There's a reason that like other countries are much happier because that is like a staple of their life is, at the end of the day after dinner, you sit outside in the alleyway and you play checkers, or you play cards and you hang out with your neighbors. And sometimes you don't even know the person's name, but you treat them like family and friends. And like, we don't see that in America. And you definitely don't see it if you've never left here.
Right.
Right. So it's like, we just live in this weird TikTok bubble and it's like everything has to be done on the internet, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think, that's my long rant about that. But I think it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah, and that's coming from someone who doesn't even know what speed dating is.
Yeah.
Right. So speed dating is where you have like a timer, right? And you kind of like go round robin and just kind of try to make a connection in a shorter period of time, I guess.
I think I've never done it, and I hadn't had the opportunity to do it here because that one got canceled. But I think it is you fill out some information about yourself. And I think it's as the guy, you sit at a table and the women get the information and then they see, okay, this guy is this information, that guy is this info. And then I guess they take turns within a period of time having a conversation or like going on a speed date. And then at the end, they figure out or they decide which man they want to go on a date with. And I'm making this up. I could be wrong.
Sure.
Correct me in the comments. Like, I don't really know. But I think that's the speed dating thing. And talking to the person that owns the Pear Club, she wanted to make it very clear that this isn't that. Because that is it's not worse than a dating app, but it's not better, right? It's still somewhat gamifying it, somewhat making it like an interview. She's like, the last thing that I want is for people to feel like there's pressure for them to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're at like a speed dating thing, there's tons of pressure. It's already like anxiety inducing enough to go on a date with somebody that you meet from the internet or to go on a date with somebody that you met in the wild, a stranger, to hang out with somebody for the first time. Imagine being in the hot seat for an hour talking to 10 strangers for the first time and having to answer the questions about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
Damn, I'm sitting here thinking it sounds kind of fun.
I mean, I was going to do it.
I definitely see what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I definitely see what you mean.
I was going to do it. And like, I want to quote her specifically because she has some really good points when we were talking about this. And to your point about getting more comfortable with meeting people in the wild, she said something very similar. So people are scared to approach strangers now, post-COVID, social media. We've lost the muscle of just walking up to somebody and saying hello. Because like, what's the harm?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that they can do is not say anything or, be rude to you. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as someone who doesn't do that as often as I would like. But the reality of it is when I do, every time I do, it's a great thing. I meet somebody new. I have a really cool encounter with a stranger. Makes my day better usually. I get an opportunity to make someone else's day better. That's a winner.
100%.
Even if nothing comes out of it.
Yeah.
It's just cool to talk to people in your world, in the wild, so to speak.
Even like when I work with my clients and help people, become more confident on camera and make content and put themselves out there for the first time.
Yeah.
I run a challenge. And one of the things that they have to do during the challenge is have a social interaction every day for 60 days.
Oh, that's good.
And it is exactly that. It's as simple as intentionally making the habit of like saying hello to the person in the elevator, right? Like we get in an elevator and we just get in and we're like, when is this going to be over, right? And you're just sitting there waiting to get out of the elevator. It's like, well, if you just speak up and just be like, hey, how's your day going? Or hey, good morning, right? It's like, it radically changes how you approach being social with people.
Yeah.
I think it greatly changes your own self-esteem and your own confidence, and it's like, it's a good habit to have. It changes the way people see you, right? It's like, could immediately change someone's impression of you from being like, oh, that was a weird guy to being like, oh, what a pleasant interaction. Like, what a nice young man, know? And it is, it's just that thing. And it's exactly what she said, which is, working that muscle. And the more you do that, it's not this thing that you overthink all the time. It's just like you slowly build yourself into a socially confident person, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that helps people not overthink these things, not be as self-conscious. And at the end of the day, like, dude, we're all on this boat together, you know? And it's like, we got what we got, right? Like, we got the bodies we got the personalities that we got. We've got the jobs and the, you know, circumstances that we have. And it's like, so what? You're just going to not put that out there in fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but so is the alternative, right? Because the alternative is what? You just stay alone forever and doubt yourself constantly and think, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I can never do that, or oh, I can't get this girl, or I can't get that guy. It's like, you don't know unless you try.
Right.
And that is the definition of trying, which is like, let me put myself in an uncomfortable situation. And yeah, like, you know, go sit at a table with somebody, have a conversation, or at least try to have a conversation.
Try.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do your best, and maybe show up and it's like, man, this is pretty awkward, or I feel more shy, or I'm just like, you know, maybe I'm not vibing with somebody. It's like, okay, but you did it, right? You did it. And the next time it's easier. And it goes back to public speaking. It's like the first time, it's very nerve wracking. And then you do the second time, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. You know, and even having our clients on the show, like having people on the show, first time they do it, they're like, oh man, I'm terrified. And they're like, at the end, they're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And then they're ready to do it again.
Right.
And I think in some ways it does draw parallels to dating, but also just social interactions. It's like, we have to get back to like some normalcy.
Right.
And, you know, as much as I love technology, like these are the things that are pulling us away from that. So I love the idea of using technology and social media to help people become aware of events like that.
Yeah.
Especially locally, and with all the cool stuff going on in Richmond, it's like, yeah, let's get out and experience those things. And it doesn't just have to be sitting at the same old bars that everybody goes to.
Yeah, man. And like you and I both talk about this from time to time. We both took not took the risk, but made the decision to stop drinking and therefore not go out to the bars as often. And, you know, last episode we were talking about, you know, where do you go to socialize or to just not be at your house or not be at work? And this brings us back to like the idea of the third space. Coffee shops are a version of a third space, but they aren't very social. You know, even the coffee shop can be a little isolating if you're there by yourself. It's quiet. You don't want to disturb anyone's peace. You might have a little chit chat here and there, but you're not there to socialize. That's not what people do at a coffee shop. So then where do you go? You go to a public space like a park. I mentioned the lawn at the VMFA. It's a great place to just be. That isn't a coffee shop. It's not work. It's not home. You're not at a bar. You're not at a, you know, sporting event that you're occupied by some other activity, you know, and there's people there all the time. So it's a great space to just do and be and socialize and mingle. And these events that she's putting on are creating these like third spaces, but they're activities that people do already. She's contextualizing them in a frame specifically at this point that's geared toward single people trying not to be single anymore, right? And she has a quote here: "We've got to normalize rejection, focus on emotional maturity, and see being single as something to celebrate, not something to be ashamed of."
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so what was her name that runs the Pear Club?
Her name is Margarita.
Okay. I love it. Margarita.
Yeah.
So like as not a counter quote, but in addition, you know, like my belief around relationships is like, I'm going to be the best version of myself for you. And I want you to be the best version of yourself for me. Right. And it's like of course you're doing it for yourself, but it's not this like standard approach of like 50-50, right? Like, oh, like I'm here to, you know, save you or whatever, right? And it's all these funny memes around like, I can save her and, you know, I could save them and all this other stuff, right? It's like, it's not about saving somebody. It's about, yeah, like fulfill your potential the best that you can. And then when you're ready, complement your life by finding the person who complements it and vice versa, you know? And I think too many people try to fill the, you know, like lonely space in their life with a counterpart, with a partner. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, like, yeah, you know, like being single forever is not what anybody wants. But if you're constantly distracting yourself from being alone, there's a reason for that, right? And it's probably because there are things about your own life that, and, you know, this is not a therapy show, but there's probably things about your own life that you don't want to acknowledge. And I think it's worth like taking the time to look inward and build yourself up to the point. And then all those other things are going to solve themselves along the way. Right.
Yeah.
And then you think, all right, I am ready to show up with some strangers and be myself and have a laugh and have a good time. And no, I don't need to get drunk to do that. And I don't need to be self-conscious and overthink it to do all that. It's like I feel like I'm in a space where I can take that first step and go do that. So I totally agree. I think it's a great quote. And it sounds like what she's doing is awesome.
Yeah, man. I am definitely going to have to get my reps in on the cold plunge.
Yeah.
Because
I've got one.
Yeah, I know you do. I'm coming over.
Yeah.
We'll get it. We'll get some cold plunge going on. And I think I've got the other things locked down. Can definitely use a hot tub. Definitely know how to use a sauna. And eating charcuterie and sitting by a fire, A+.
Yeah. It's low pressure. It's what socializing is meant to be. Like maybe not, cold plunging a sauna specifically, but it's like, yeah, some sort of shared activity. There's a reason why they call it sitting around the campfire, right? It's like, yeah, it's like something's going on, but the primary focus is the socialization and connection.
Yeah.
And, also goes without saying that, dude, people are just uncomfortable with silence, man.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we got to get comfortable with just being in the presence of other people and not feeling like we have to attend to the conversation all the time. It's like, you got to be able to like sit and not feel like every moment has to be filled with some sort of dopamine draining or boosting thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's conversation or social media or whatever, gossip, reality TV, any of these things. It's like, and I feel pretty strongly that things weren't always like this, like people just got together and hung around and like had a little fire, had some conversation and like, there was a time not so long ago where it'd be like, man, it sounds boring. And now it's like, man, it's like all I want to do.
Yeah. Dude, that's what we did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to age myself. I grew up without the internet, without cell phones, and without access to TV on 24/7.
Yeah.
All we had to do to entertain ourselves was each other.
Yeah.
We would go to the park. We'd go to the movies. We'd go to the store before I was like of age to go anywhere else on my own. Or, when I got a car, I had a cell phone, but I could only text and call. So we would make plans to meet each other. That's all we did. We didn't chat for days. We didn't send memes. We just wanted to hang out. That's all we did. And that's all we wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I hate texting. You already know this. I hate texting. And it doesn't mean don't text the show. If you look below the show notes, you can actually text us on the show and let us know what you think about this. But like I've just never, maybe I never evolved past the 8th grade, texting, right? Like, I'm not far off with you. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was almost 17, I think. Mm-hmm. And of course, it wasn't an iPhone. It's like a little flip phone. It was like a Motorola flip phone. Yeah. All you could do was like text on it and like maybe play Snake and like some other stuff on it. You could do a couple basic things. As a kid, I didn't have cable, so you basically just waited to watch like Doug or like, something like that,
mm-hmm.
If you could catch something like that. And I think for a while, we actually were able to tap into like our neighbor's cable.
Oh,
and I was able to get a little Nickelodeon action and stuff like that, some Cartoon Network, maybe a little sneak peek at like South Park or something. But for the most part, same exact thing. I grew up listening to cassette tapes and I have 2 older cousins and a lot of their stuff was like passed down to me from when they were kids in the early 80s. And so like a lot of the toys and like just things that I picked up as a kid were from the generation before me.
Mm-hmm.
And had a couple neighbors. You go out into the park, you go hang outside, eat berries off the bush. And like, your parents are not even involved. You go out, you live your life, you hang out with your friends. And when the street light comes on, or like my dad, he can whistle like crazy loud. And from all the way down the street, like if you heard the whistle, it was like, all right, it's time to come home.
Yep.
And that was it. So it was either like street light comes on or you hear the whistle and that means dinner's ready. It's time to come home, whatever. And that was it, man. And it's just rinse and repeat. And like that was childhood.
Yeah, man. Kinda. Like to give me some nostalgia here, man. That's exactly what my childhood was like growing up in like Henrico County. I had a couple of neighborhood friends, maybe 2, 3 guys. We would meet up, play video games, go to the park, walk to the corner store and buy like candy and snacks and hang out at each other's houses until the sun went down. And my mom couldn't whistle, but she would yell. She could yell like nobody's business, like blocks away.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And just imagine like that would be a weird thing to see someone do, is open their front door and just scream into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But that's what people did back then.
Dude, the internet, man, I think not that people underestimate it, but they kind of do. I mean, dude, the internet has changed everything, because it's like we have all information at our fingertips, and I wish I could look at statistics and understand the difference in, the crime numbers and stuff. But I think a big part of it is now people are just aware of what could happen.
Yeah.
And so then it's just this thing of like, you know what, we'll just let the kid be on the iPad all day. Because the alternative is he gets kidnapped and sent off to Epstein Island and we have never see him again or see him again, And it's like, it's highly unlikely that that happens, but the internet shows us that it could happen.
Right.
And we got the news like putting it down our throats at all times and saying like, this could happen and there's this crime and all this stuff. And, it's not to discount that those things do happen, but it's radically changed the way that people approach raising their kids and how society functions.
Yeah, you bringing up that just reminds me, my parents are in their 70s now. And I think it was maybe like 6-7 years ago, more so in the last 5 years, that I noticed that my mom is, well, both my parents, but my mom specifically is afraid of everything. She is overprotective. She is overly cautious. She has contingencies in place for scenarios that she's never been through. She drives the safest car that she could get because she's worried about getting in a car accident. She has a door alarm, a window alarm, she has the deadbolt on the back door. She lives in a condominium unit next to, sandwiched between two other neighbors. And she has a fenced in backyard that's secluded from the street. And she's worried about burglars. She's worried about people who come in to drop off a package and kicking her door down. And I asked her one day, I was like, has any of this stuff ever happened to you? She's like, no. I was like, well, we always talk about this and you're always so afraid of this stuff happening. Where did that come from? She's like, I don't know. This is just how I was raised. I just remembered that my mom and, then growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, I watched the news and it happened to other people. I don't want it to happen to me or to you guys. And I'm like, man, but you're living in fear of everything.
Yeah.
She doesn't like flying that much. She doesn't like, going to the store alone. She doesn't like driving at night because of crime. I'm like, what? It's a crazy way to live.
It's a boomer thing, dude. And I know we both love our moms, but my mom is the same way. It's like, same deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes we got to remind our mother, it's like, hey, I'm a fully grown adult.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing meth. And yes, I'll wear a condom. Like, chill. It's like everything will be fine.
Chill out. Yeah.
Yeah. Or not, because if I can't get a Tinder date, then, I don't even need to worry about it.
I mean, you don't have to worry about it because you're not on the apps at all.
Well, yeah.
You're good to go.
No,
yeah,
everything's all good.
Just keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd seen that you put down the stat, though, regarding Tinder, right? So it's like, because what's the solution if somebody's like, I'm not doing a cold plunge and I'm not having dinner with strangers, right? So they are taking the app route. And you got how many apps, I don't even know. I saw the one, right? The T app, and all the girls downloaded it.
Oh, yeah.
And then
don't look at, if you're a guy, don't look at the T app.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
Which, like, it's.
I mean, that's another thing. And like, this is a longer conversation, but the T app being an example of bad press. And I actually was talking with Margarita about this, and she agrees. And it is a nuanced conversation, and there are lots of points of view. So to keep it simple, we agreed and have observed that there's bad press around dating, relationships, and the dynamic just between men and women. Like the simplest parts, there's still just like a lot of bad press. Social media is a big part of that. There's a lot of videos on TikTok and Instagram of men going out and like talking to girls, and then the girls are just completely dogging them out and humiliating them on camera for entertainment purposes.
Really?
Yeah, that's a whole thing. But then on the other side of that, you have men who have accounts dedicated to just going up and approaching women.
Right.
And they're wearing like the glasses and they're they're showing that it's not that hard. If you talk to a stranger, you'll have a good interaction. So there's these two camps of like good press, negative and like bad things get way more attention than positive and good things. That's just how things work.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, what most people see is the crazy extreme negative version of what's going on. And it has a trickle down effect like anything else. It goes down through all different types of people and it resonates and permeates social dynamics across the board. Unfortunately, it has just the outcome where everyone is afraid of everyone for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
Men are afraid of rejection. They're afraid of being humiliated. They're afraid of getting called out, quote unquote. They're afraid of getting the finger pointed at them for doing something nefarious that they didn't do, or falsely accused, or doing something that they thought was fine and realizing that it wasn't.
Right.
They're just afraid of all of that. And then you have women that are afraid of getting murdered, afraid of getting kidnapped, afraid of getting raped, afraid of getting called out on social media for being a slut. There's all of these things that people are worried about that are getting in the way of just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And that all has to do with bad press. All that shit's on social media and all that shit's on the internet. If you didn't know it was there, it wouldn't affect you and you would have no problem talking to people.
Yeah, true. And and I guess, maybe that is why people are just like, I'll just get an AI girlfriend. And be fine. It's like, it's a terrifying future to think about.
It is.
But, like, I'll give you my thoughts if you're interested, because I'm oblivious of movies. And in many ways, I'm oblivious of dating, I guess, in a modern way. And, not to give men too much crap, but I think, like, in some ways you could argue like, the cards are stacked against us because the standard is so high. And there are a lot of studies, and there's even like social experiments where you can go on YouTube and you watch where you have a lineup of what you would consider like attractive men, right? Because there's a really funny thing about like people being like really physically fit, and like all the attention that those guys get is just from other guys. You know what I mean? Because like that's what guys think it like makes an attractive male, is like somebody who's just like ripped and in great shape and like tan and buff and like all that. And then when you actually give women that option, they're like, that's not what they want.
Right.
It's not what they're interested in, actually. And many men just completely overlook that fact and just go with the typical narrative of like, oh, look like Johnny Bravo, and then you get the girls, and it's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the truth is, the bar is high. And who am I to say, right? Like, I'm not a woman. I don't have an opinion on like dating men, but the bar is high. But at the same time, it's not, dude. It's like, wash your face, read a book, like listen, and you're off to a pretty good start.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, but I think the understanding of like what gets women is so off that it's leading to these interactions where somebody can just be like, actually you're doing it all wrong. If you just walk up and say hello, works just fine.
Right.
And people aren't realizing that. So have you seen the midwit meme?
No, I don't
so
think
basically, the midwit meme is, when somebody's like a beginner and they know nothing, right? It starts at the beginning. It's just like, I do it. And then as you learn more, you learn a little bit and you're like, oh, now I know something. And let me look at the dating apps and let me kind of look up like, oh, what's the perfect Tinder bio? And you look up this and whatever. Now you think you know something and you just instantly overcomplicate it, right? And you actually make it worse than when you were just starting, right?
Yeah.
And then as you do it and you figure it out, then you realize that the right way to do it is like, oh, I just need to chill out and go back to what I was doing in the beginning.
Right.
Right. Like that's the midwit meme.
And the meme at the end, so the beginning is like a guy like with disheveled hair, like kind of a cartoon guy. And then in the middle is just a guy with like swirls, confused. And at the end, it's like sage wisdom guy with like the cloak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it is that, and I think like men that can understand that, and it's like, dude, keep it simple. Like, read a book, be interested. And, I understand that these things are like maybe not as easy as they sound. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it a bit. Like having a good personality is hard, but it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, which is like, look inward. Like the answer is not externally. Like figure out what you like to do. Figure out what your interests and your hobbies are. Figure out what you care about. And that's what provokes interest in conversation.
Yeah.
And it's what makes people interested in you beyond your buff looks and whatever, you know, it's
Right.
like it's surface level, you know?
And you, to your point earlier, you can't do that if you're already or always in a relationship with someone.
Yeah.
It does take time by yourself, purposeful self-reflection, purposeful intention and discovery and curiosity and commitment to being a better version of who you are and trying to figure out who that is along the way. And in the process, you usually end up talking to interesting people. When you start being interested in yourself and becoming interesting by proxy, that is attractive to other interesting people. Before you know it, you're hanging out with somebody pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a great quote. Great minds talk about ideas. Average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people. Right. So, and if you think about like reality and TV and stuff like that, it's like, it's just gossip around other people. You know, if you think about news and all the stuff that's happening right now, it's like, you know, average minds talk about events, current events, like things happening like, oh, did you see the news? Oh, the weather, you know, whatever. And it says like great minds talk about ideas. And I love ideas. And it's like, talk about ideas. It's what this whole show is about. You know, it's like, it's what makes interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And I think like that's true regardless of dating and sexual preference or any of those things, you know? So it's like, in order to talk about ideas, you have to have ideas and have interests in certain topics and hobbies and things like that. And you mentioned Run Club, right? I do think that like physical endeavors are good ways to meet people, but it doesn't have to be running. It could be hiking. It could be kayaking. It could be like, you know, I'm in a cycling club, and don't get me wrong, like cycling's primarily guys and I'm not gay, but it's a good way to make friends.
Right.
Right. And meeting friends is a way to meet more people and more women and vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, just be social, right? If you can be confident in any social situation, you will inevitably meet more people.
Right.
And yeah, life will go your way, you know? And if not, then then there's always AI.
Yeah. You get you a VHS player, rent or buy from eBay the Terminator, and hang out with your AI girlfriend.
Yeah. And I could see the dilemma, because like that, I'm sure for a lot of people that sounds like,
that sounds
like
cool.
a great night.
It's like a great
make
night.
Popcorn and hang out with what was the Grok AI? What was her name?
I don't know.
From the but anyway, AI girlfriend and watch the Terminator. Yeah. Well, I can guarantee you one thing: that will not be me. But if you know anybody who goes down that route, we'll have to.
We will definitely have to get them on the podcast.
Yeah. It's a wild future that we're looking at, you know. But get outside. Yeah,
go outside, touch grass, and maybe go to some of these events.
Yeah.
This podcast was recorded at Vera House Studios in Richmond, Virginia, and produced by Perry Young and Mike Metzger.